Today we're going to look at Chapter 7, Lesson 1, which we're going to break into several different days. Today, Day 1, we're going to focus on combining like terms, which means that we have to understand what a constant is and what a coefficient is, and then we have to simplify those terms and put them together. So what I would like for you to do today as we're going through this video is to fill out your notes as I go through the notes on here. Your problem should look exactly the same as mine. So our first example that we're going to take a look at is 7x plus 2x. When we see 7x plus 2x, we have to identify the x. The x is our variable. The number 7 is what we consider our coefficient, which tells us how many of those x's we have. And then on the second one, it says plus 2 more x. So our variable is still an x, just like as it was in 7x, but our coefficient is 2. So what that's telling us is we have 7x plus 2x. So look at just the coefficients, add the coefficients together. So we're going to add 7 plus 2 together, which gives us 9. And then our variable is x. So we have a final answer. We've simplified this expression into 9x. We started with 7x and we added 2 more x's. Taking a look at example 2, now we have 3 things that we have to add together. The first one tells us we have k. Well, how many k's do we have? There's no number, no coefficient in front of that, so it is assumed that that is just a 1. So we have 1k plus 4k plus 3. Now what you'll notice here is we have the same variable k again, but then we have a plus 3 that does not have a k. So when there's no variable, like we see right here as plus 3, we call that a constant. It's a number that's completely by itself. It never changes. It's constantly the same. So we start off by adding what's similar. So we have 4k and we have 1k. Those are similar because they both have k's. The 1 is positive and the 4 is positive. So we add 1 plus 4 together to give us 5. The variable is still k. Now the 3 doesn't have a k, so we can't add the 3 to what we already have as a 5k because it stands alone. If we had another number that did not have a variable, we could add those together. But since we don't have anything to add with the plus 3, we leave it as plus 3. So we've simplified our expression as much as we can, and we have a final answer of 5k plus 3. Example number 3, you'll notice we have 4x, we have another constant of plus 8, and then we have minus 7x. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box around the 4x, and I'm going to put a box around the 7x, but I'm also going to include the minus 7x because that tells us that that 7 is negative. We don't want to think in terms of plus or minus anymore. We want to think in terms of, is the coefficient positive or is the coefficient negative? So we have 4x plus negative 7x, or 4x minus 7x. Well, I know that 4 minus 7 is negative 3, and the variable was x. In the second part, I have a plus 8. I don't have anything to add to the 8, so it stays as plus 8. So my final answer would be negative 3x plus 8. And then circle your answer so you know exactly where it is. All right, let's try number 4. So first thing I want you to do is put a circle around everything that has an m. So we have a 3m, and then we also have a minus 7m. So I'm going to circle both the 3 and the minus 7m. So 3m minus 7m gives me negative 4m. And feel free to use your calculator when you're combining your like terms. If you don't feel very comfortable with adding and subtracting with negatives, rely on your calculator. Just make sure that you type it in as 3 minus 7, or you type it in as 3 plus negative 7. So we have negative 4m, and then we also have to identify the other term. The other term was minus 2. I have nothing that's a constant, so I have nothing to combine with minus 2. So my final answer is negative 4m minus 2. And then circle your answer. All right, problem number 5. This time you'll see that we have 4 items that we have to combine and simplify. So I start with the A. Think back, how many A's is that? There's no number, so yes, we assume that it's 1A. So we have 1A, and then we look for anything else that also has an A. The negative 3 does not, the 9 does not, but the 6 does, so I'm circling that. So I add 1 plus 6 to give me 7, and it's an A, so I include the A. Then I go on to my next term, which was minus 3. Minus 3 does not have a variable, so I look for other numbers that don't have a variable, and I do have another one, which is plus 9. So negative 3 plus 9 is positive 6. So then my final answer on this problem, to simplify this, would be 7a plus 6. Take a look at number 6. We're going to start with the 4. The 4 does not have a variable with it, so I look for other numbers that don't have a variable, and I see a 6, it's a plus 6, so 4 plus 6 gives me 10. So I'm going to put 10 at the end of my answer. I'm putting it at the end because I always want to put numbers that involve variables at the beginning of my problem. This one does not have a variable, so we just write plus 10. The next is plus 6m. So I look for other numbers that have an m with it too, and I see that I have a minus 10m. So I'm doing 6 minus 10 gives me negative 4, and then I attach that m. Now remember that 10? That 10, was it positive or was it negative when I added the 4 and the 6 together? It was positive, so because I have to combine like terms, I need an operation sign here, so I'm going to put a plus because that shows me that that 10 is positive. So my final answer on this one would be negative 4m plus 10. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to look at number 7. I want you to pause the video, try to do this one on your own. If you don't have different colored pencils, you could put a square around one item, a triangle around something else, maybe a circle around something to try it that way. So go ahead and try number 7. So this time I'm going to act like I don't have a different colored set of pens. So I first identify the first one, which has a 7n. Does anything else in here have an n? Yes. I have a plus a negative 3n. So the question is that 3n positive or is it negative? If I'm adding a negative, that would be the same thing as noticing that the last thing in there is a negative. So yes, it is negative. So 7n plus negative 3n gives me 4n. And you can just type in on your calculator 7 plus negative 3. Now again, I said I don't have a different color, so this time I'm going to put maybe a triangle around the next one. So I have minus 7. Do I have anything else that does not have a variable? Yes, I do. I have the minus 4. So negative 7 minus 4 gives me negative 11. So remember, anytime we have a constant, a number with no variable, like we did earlier, we want to put that answer at the end of the problem like we did on number 6. So back to this one. We had negative 7 minus 4. That gives me negative 11. So I'm going to put negative 11 at the end. And then you'll notice that there was one item that we didn't combine. That was plus x. There's nothing to combine with that plus x. So I'm going to put it after the 4n, so plus x. So my final answer is 4n plus x minus 11. I cannot combine n and x together because those are different variables. All right, problem number 8. Go ahead and try this one again on your own. Go ahead and pause it and then do it on your own. So I've gone ahead and combined anything that had an x variable, which gave me a positive 4.5x. I didn't have anything to combine with the y variable, which gave me 4, so plus 4y, and I had nothing to combine with the minus 1, so minus 1 was my final answer at the end. So 4.5x plus 4y minus 11. All right, last two problems. Again, go ahead and pause these and try these on your own. It doesn't matter that there's decimals involved. Continue to combine like terms. So you can see that I went ahead and color-coded the terms that were alike, combined them, and then for number 9, I ended up with an answer of 3a plus 7b minus 6c plus 1/10. This is plus 1/10. And then number 10, I ended up with 1.5m plus 1.5n plus 13. If you got a different answer and you're unsure as to how I got my answer or why yours is different, make sure you raise your hand and you ask before you go on. And then if you are good, go ahead and go on. Ask Mrs. Tompkins for your homework sheet for tonight, which will include 10 problems of very similar type problems that we just did in our notes. Again, ask questions first if you have them. Otherwise, go ahead and begin with the homework.